I'm not going to let Wall Street get away with murder. Wall Street has caused tremendous problems for us. We're going to tax Wall Street. We're going to get rid of certain things that they should have. I've been talking about it very strongly. Certain things that they want, and they want them badly, and it's not fair to give it to them.
Candidate Trump criticized Wall Street, but President-elect Trump just picked a Wall Street executive for one of the most powerful positions in his cabinet. Treasury Secretary nominee Steven Mnuchin spent 17 years at Goldman Sachs before he became a hedge fund manager. And Senator Bernie Sanders had plenty to say about that when I got the chance to ask him about Trump's cabinet picks. Senator, we're starting to see the cabinet come together, and you've got Betsy DeVos, who's worth about $5 billion, Wilbur Ross, who's worth about $3 billion, Todd Ricketts, who's worth $1 billion, Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary, who's worth at least $40 million, although I think that vastly undersells it.
Only $40 million?
I know. He's a piker.
And he got into the cabinet?
I know. Well,
I'm really quite shocked at poor people being able to get into the cabinet.
It is pretty remarkable. I mean, this is pretty unprecedented, this sort of plutocratic titans being named to these positions, some of whom have zero experience.
Chris, what's more, I mean, we're in Trump world right now, and what we have to understand is we're into show business. And that means that what you said during the campaign, you said that we are going to not cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and then you appoint Congressman Congressman Price,
Tom Price, yeah,
the head of HHS, who has made his life's work cutting Medicare. You talk about how you're going to be tough on Wall Street, and then you appoint a Wall Street insider to be Secretary of the Treasury. You talk about being tough on the establishment. Oh, we're going to take on the whole establishment, and you appoint the entire establishment to your cabinet. The hypocrisy would be really funny if it wasn't so sad in terms of the implications of what it means for working people in this country.
Steve Mnuchin is someone who was at Goldman Sachs, who, of course, he bought a distressed property in IndyMac, renamed it, and then foreclosed on a lot of people, which I suppose is one's right in the world of American financial capitalism. But what would you like to hear him? Would you like to hear him explain himself in those confirmation hearings?
Well, I think there will be some members of the Senate who will demand that he explain himself. Trump talked about, as you'll remember, Chris, reestablishing Glass-Steagall, holding Wall Street accountable. Well, we are going to demand that this nominee explain to us exactly how he intends to do that. But the hypocrisy of what Trump said during the campaign and the kind of appointments that he's making now is really quite laughable.
Do you see this? I mean, I've been talking to people, sources of mine, as I've reported on finance for a while, and I know people on Wall Street. I mean, there's this kind of people sort of looking around and saying, hey, this is actually looking pretty awesome. Like we weren't quite sure, but there's this sort of mood. I mean, you see it on business networks. You hear it from folks on Wall Street.
Plus,
like good times. Well, good times are here.
They're catching on to what Mitt Romney said a while back in describing Mr. Trump. He said, Donald Trump is a fraud and a phony. And now I think the folks on Wall Street and in corporate America are giving a sign of relief because, in fact, it turned out to be true. Forget about everything that he said during the campaign, how he's going to take on the establishment. He is going to reward his billionaire friends, and the middle class and working class of this country is in for some very, very rough times. So
how do you, here's my question, when you set against the backdrop, I mean, of this Carrier sort of victory tour, right? Are you confident that you could communicate the reality of what's actually going to happen if people are getting Medicaid cuts, if Medicare is being privatized, if corporate tax rate goes down to 15%? Can you communicate the reality through the kind of spectacle?
Well, this is why we need to radically reform the Democratic Party, because I would say that yesterday the Democratic Party would be unable to do that because their grassroots approach was negligible. But I think what we have got to do now is create a strong grassroots movement, which is why I'm supporting Keith Ellison to be chair of the Democratic Party, and rally the American people. The elderly have got to know that right now Medicare is in danger, that they want to privatize Medicare, voucherize Medicare. Workers have got to know that despite all of Trump's rhetoric about raising the minimum wage or standing up to corporate America in terms of outsourcing, that was just campaign nonsense. He's not going to do that. So we have got to rally many, many millions of people to tell Mr. Trump that we are going to hold him accountable. He is not going to get away with double-crossing the middle class of this country.
All right, Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, thanks for your time tonight. Appreciate it. Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.